Here's the thing, gentlemen. This is you. This is the girl you like. And this is her heart. If that heart has a lock, then today I'm going to hand you the key. Not metaphorically, but practically. Because unlocking a woman's heart is less about grand gestures and more about understanding a truth so simple, yet so profound, it often slips by unnoticed. Now, zoom out for a second. Look at the lives of women around the world. What do you notice? Ads on their phones shout promises of flawless skin, perfect hair, and miraculous weight loss. The shelves of every store gleam with products designed to beautify, enhance, and transform. From the moment she wakes up and glances in the mirror, to the hours spent perfecting her look, to the countless dollars poured into self-care. Why do you think this is? It's not vanity, it's biology. Deeply rooted in every woman's instincts is a desire for approval, not just from anyone, but from those who matter. Society feeds this instinct constantly. And here's the kicker. If you, as a man, learn to engage with this natural drive, you'll find yourself holding the key to her affection. Here's the secret. When a woman strives for your approval, she's yours. That's it. It's simple, almost too simple, but it's the cornerstone of connection. If you've been following this series, you've heard me say it before. Approval is power. It's not about manipulation. It's about understanding a dynamic that already exists and flowing with it, not against it. Now, I hear you. You might be thinking, isn't that difficult? How do I make her want my approval? Here's the good news. It's not. Why? Because this instinct is already within her. Advertisers use it to sell makeup and hair products. You'll use it to connect. The bad news? If you're not paying attention, you'll miss your chance. Today, I'll show you exactly how to position yourself so that she's the one seeking your approval. And trust me, once you master this, you'll see just how easy it is to unlock her heart, not with force, but with finesse. So, let's dive in, shall we? The million-dollar question remains. How do you put a woman in that state where she strives to gain your approval? Before we explore the how, let's start with the foundation. Your mindset. Without a solid understanding here, the rest will collapse like a poorly built bridge. Picture this. You walk up to someone and start saying, "I'm awesome, I'm rich, I'm smart." And they respond, "Oh, really? Well, I'm awesome, I'm rich, I'm smart too." How would you feel? Annoyed? Deflated? Exactly. It's like tossing them a ball and instead of playing the game, they just throw it back at you with no effort. There's no connection, no admiration, just two egos playing tug of war. Now, here's the truth about relationships. In every emotional dynamic, one person is striving for the other's approval. You might be tempted to argue, can't it be equal? If we like each other, shouldn't we both be trying to impress one another? That's logic speaking, and while logic serves well in the courtroom or the lab, it's a lousy guide in matters of the heart. Relationships aren't ruled by logic. They're governed by emotions. If you want to master the art of attraction, you must embrace this reality. The first rule? Stop trying to impress her. This doesn't mean you should be cold or indifferent. It simply means you don't bend over backward for validation. Women are keen observers. They can sense when a man values himself, and that confidence is magnetic. But here's where most men stumble. If you're not used to talking to women, the moment you're face-to-face with one, you'll instinctively try to impress her. It's almost automatic. Why? because society has conditioned you to think her attention is a prize to be won. The world has placed women on a pedestal so high that it makes you feel like you must prove your worth just to reach it. This mindset creates an internal pressure, the kind that whispers, "You need her approval." Say something impressive. Show her why you're worth her time. It's a persistent force, and left unchecked, it'll sabotage your efforts. Here's what I want you to do the next time you're in a conversation with a beautiful woman. Pause and acknowledge that pressure. Feel it rising within you. The urge to prove yourself, to say something remarkable. Don't suppress it or fight it. Just recognize it for what it is. Once you're aware of it, you can redirect it. Think of that pressure as an arrow currently aimed outward, urging you to impress her. Now imagine turning that arrow inward. Channel that energy into being present. Focus on listening, really listening to what she says. Here's the secret. When you stop seeking her approval, you flip the dynamic. Suddenly, she's the one noticing your calm, self-assured demeanor. She's the one drawn in, wondering why you're so composed and unshaken. In that moment, you're no longer chasing her validation. Instead, you've become the man whose approval she now seeks. And that, my friend, is the key to unlocking her heart. How do you pull this off? Let me walk you through it, step by step, like a recipe for the finest dish you've ever cooked. Picture this. You approach a girl and start a conversation. Almost immediately, you feel it. That subtle, internal pressure bubbling up inside, whispering, "Impress her." Say something amazing. Make her see how great you are. But here's what I want you to do instead. Take a deep breath and tell yourself this simple truth. If I want to impress her, I must not try to impress her. Now, I know that sounds like a riddle straight out of a fortune cookie, but hear me out. This shift in your mindset is where the magic begins. If you can internalize this principle, you'll start to disarm that pressure. And once you do, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing her validation, and suddenly, the dynamic flips. Trust me on this one. You won't fully grasp its power until you've tried it yourself. The next time you feel that pressure rising, remind yourself of this mantra. To impress her, I must not try to impress her. Do this often enough, and over time, it'll become second nature. You won't even have to think about it. Here's the beauty of this approach. When you stop trying to impress her, you create a void. And nature, my friend, abhors a void. Into that space flows her curiosity, her desire to understand why you're not bending over backward like everyone else. And before you know it, she's the one working to earn your approval. But how do you nudge her into this state? The recipe, as I mentioned, requires two key ingredients: withholding validation and letting her know what you like in a woman. Let's break this down. Ingredient 1: withholding validation. Think back to what we discussed earlier. Women are wired to seek admiration and validation. It's woven into their DNA, a fundamental instinct that's as old as time itself. But here's the kicker. If you hand her validation on a silver platter, she has no reason to strive for it. The game ends before it even begins. So, don't flood her Instagram posts with likes. Don't leave comments on every photo. And for heaven's sake, don't act like you're a fan in her cheering section. Restrain yourself. Show her that you're not so easily impressed. This doesn't mean you need to be cold or dismissive. It's not about ignoring her, it's about creating value. A diamond isn't valuable because it's everywhere. It's valuable because it's rare. Your validation should be no different. Ingredient 2. Expressing what you like now comes the second part of the equation. Letting her know what you admire in a woman. Be specific. Maybe it's her sense of humor, her ambition, or the way she lights up when she talks about her passions. Tell her these things, subtly but sincerely. Here's what happens next. She notices that you're not handing out validation like it's Halloween candy, and her instincts kick in. She starts wondering, why isn't he giving me approval? What can I do to make him admire me? And then the real magic happens. She starts aligning her behavior with the qualities you mentioned. If you admire kindness, she'll go out of her way to show compassion. If you respect ambition, she'll highlight her goals. In essence, she begins striving to earn your validation. When these two ingredients come together, your restraint and your clarity about what you value, they create a dynamic that's both natural and powerful. She'll feel drawn to you, not because you tried to impress her, but because you allowed her to discover her own desire to win you over. This, my friend, is the art of crafting attraction. But like any great recipe, execution matters. There are rules to follow, and those rules, well, we'll get to them next. Stay with me. The first rule of this delicate dance is a curious one. When you tell a woman what you like in a girl, whether it's girls who wear dresses instead of pants, introverted types who carry the quiet wisdom of a poet, or the social butterflies who can charm a room, you must ensure that a small portion of your preferences already align with who she is. But here's the twist: not everything. 40% of what you like should be present in her, leaving the remaining 60% as the tantalizing challenge she feels compelled to meet. Why this balance? Because if everything you admire is missing, you'll come off as impossible to please, a stone-faced critic instead of an intriguing admirer. And let's face it, even Mark Twain himself couldn't charm anyone while being intolerable. Here's where it gets fascinating. You see, the modern world showers attractive women with validation as abundantly as April rains. If she wears a shirt, someone's bound to compliment it, whether it's genuinely flattering or looks like it was borrowed from a scarecrow. Compliments, when handed out indiscriminately, lose their sparkle. Now imagine this. She wears a shirt, and every other guy around her gushes about how great she looks. You offer no such praise. Instead, you casually mention how much you appreciate the elegance of a woman in a dress. That subtle comment, my friend, plants a seed. She'll wonder, why didn't he validate me? That question will grow into, how can I make him admire me? And before long, she'll find herself choosing a dress the next time you meet. Why? Because she wants to earn your approval, not anyone else's. Not the flattery of the crowd, but yours. Picture this scenario. You and 3 other men are chatting with an attractive woman. She wants all your admiration. That's just her nature. The others shower her with compliments regardless of what she does. But you stand apart. You set a standard, and by influencing her choices, encouraging her to align with your preferences, you become the one she seeks to impress. And here's the magic. It's not manipulation, it's inspiration. She feels like she's improving herself, guided by a man whose attention is worth earning. So, remember the formula. 40% alignment, 60% opportunity for growth. It's a simple but powerful ratio that sets you apart from the masses and opens the door to genuine connection. The second rule of this intriguing art form is as simple as it is subtle. When expressing what you like, keep it general, almost like a passing thought on a breezy afternoon. Your words should reflect your opinion, nothing more, nothing less. Imagine this. You casually mention, "I like girls with short hair." That's it, full stop. What you don't do is follow up with, "You should cut your hair." Or if you say, "I like the color green," resist the urge to tack on, "You should wear green." Why? Because the moment your words shift from observation to instruction, you lose the effortless charm that keeps her intrigued. Instead, you start sounding like someone issuing orders rather than expressing a personal preference. Here's a mistake I've made before, one that I implore you to avoid. Never give the impression that you're listing your likes as criteria for her to meet in order to win your approval. Women are not projects, nor should they feel like they're auditioning for your affection. Speak casually, almost as though you're sharing a thought with the wind, not a directive aimed at her. When done right, this seemingly offhand remark becomes a seed in her mind. She'll hear, "I don't like girls who smoke," or "I appreciate organized people." And without you lifting another finger, she'll start applying it to herself. In her mind, the wheels begin to turn. Why doesn't he comment on my posts or like my pictures? Could it be because I don't have the qualities he values? And just like that, she's motivated to make subtle changes, not because you demanded it, but because she wants your admiration. This approach not only avoids coming across as controlling, but also builds genuine intrigue. Let your preferences linger in the air like the faintest whisper of a melody, and watch how she starts humming along to your tune. The third golden rule is perhaps the most counterintuitive yet profoundly impactful. Never react to something a woman says or does simply because she said or did it. Sounds simple, right? But let me unravel this mystery with a little story from my own life. Picture this, a lively gathering, me and a good friend deep in conversation. Suddenly, a stunning woman joins the group, injecting herself into our dialogue with an air of casual charm. At one point, she cracks a joke. Dull as dishwater, mind you, the kind of humor that wouldn't even tickle a polite audience. Yet, to my dismay, my friend abruptly stops talking, turns to her, and erupts in laughter so enthusiastic you'd think she'd just delivered the punchline of the century. What happened here? He reacted to her words, not because they were clever or meaningful, but simply because she was beautiful. And there it was, the classic mistake, giving unearned validation. Now, had he glanced at her with a polite smile before smoothly resuming our conversation, the dynamic would have shifted entirely. Instead of her basking in effortless attention, she'd have been left wondering, why didn't he react? What must I do to truly impress him? And that, my friend, is where intrigue begins. Here's the thing. Women are accustomed to men falling over themselves at even the slightest gesture. But when you withhold that reflexive reaction, you communicate something powerful. You're not easily impressed. This doesn't mean being cold or dismissive, but rather being discerning. If her joke is genuinely funny, laugh. If her observation is insightful, acknowledge it. But if it's lackluster, don't force a reaction just to spare her discomfort. Yes, she might feel a pinch of embarrassment, but that's not a bad thing. In fact, it creates a spark of challenge, an urge to prove herself worthy of your attention. When you only react to qualities that genuinely deserve admiration, You set a standard. She begins to realize that your approval must be earned, not handed out like flyers at a carnival. And here's the key takeaway, wrapped in the wisdom of 1,000 courtships. Never let a woman believe that anything she does will automatically win your admiration. Make her understand that your attention is a prize, reserved for the truly remarkable. Conveying this doesn't just set you apart, it establishes you as a man of value, someone who sees beyond the surface and appreciates depth. Carry this rule with you, and you'll find yourself standing apart in a world of easy flattery and hollow compliments. After all, admiration should never come cheap. It's the currency of respect, and you, my friend, are the bank. The fourth rule, my dear reader, is curiosity, a quality as subtle as it is essential. Now, don't confuse curiosity with admiration. Let me explain this delicate art in a way that will linger in your mind long after you've finished reading. Picture this. You meet a charming woman, and naturally, you want to know more about her. You ask, "What's your job?" Now here's the fork in the road. Are you asking because you're already dazzled by her? Or are you asking because you're genuinely curious, undecided, and perhaps even skeptical about what you might hear? Curiosity is your compass. When you ask a question, it should come from a place of exploration, not infatuation. Your body language and tone must reflect this. Don't lean in with an eager grin, blurting out, "Tell me all about it." Instead, relax. Tilt your head slightly, maintain a neutral expression, and ask as if you're simply gathering information. Your demeanor should say, "I'm listening, but I haven't made up my mind yet." This subtle shift in your mindset will seep into your behavior. The magic lies in your intention. When your questions come from genuine curiosity, not an attempt to win her favor, you'll notice the dynamic change. Suddenly, you're not chasing her, you're exploring her. But while we're on this topic, let me throw you a lifeline for another pitfall. Never, and I mean never, allow yourself to be interrogated by a woman. It happens often in those early conversations. She asks a question, you answer, then another, and another, until you're a talking parrot and she's holding court. Stop it. Here's what you do instead. If she starts firing questions at you, deflect with finesse. Say something like, "That's a long story," or toss the ball back with, "Take a guess." Keep your answers short, then redirect the spotlight onto her. What about you? What's your take on that? Control the flow of conversation as a captain steers his ship. Remember, my friend, you're not the one on trial. You're the chooser. When you hold the reins of curiosity, you don't just level the playing field, you tip it in your favor. The fifth rule, dear reader, is a master stroke, as fine and delicate as a spider's web glistening in the morning sun. It's all about managing the internal pressure you feel when you find yourself on the edge of trying to gain her approval. A trap so subtle it ensnares the unwary with ease. Picture this. The lady before you proudly declares, "I have a black belt in Taekwondo." Now, let's say you dabble in boxing. Instinctively, the pressure builds in your chest, urging you to respond, "Oh, me too. I box." It's a natural reaction, isn't it? But my friend, therein lies the rub. The moment you reveal this, you rob her of the chance to win your admiration. Instead, let her bask in her accomplishment. Smile warmly and reply with a touch of humor. "Taekwondo. I tried it once and nearly broke my leg." Or if the subject turns to academics and she mentions her prowess in mathematics, you might confess with a grin, "Math? My eternal nemesis. I barely survived it in high school. By downplaying your own achievements, you create a fertile ground for her to shine, to impress, and to captivate. You see, when you allow her to step into the spotlight, she begins to weave a narrative of her own worth in your eyes. She starts to think, he isn't competing with me, he's curious about me. And that's the secret. This artful dodge is not about self-deprecation, but about subtlety. You don't need to trumpet your triumphs. Instead, create a space where she feels compelled to showcase hers. The brilliance of this approach lies in its paradox. By stepping back, you step ahead. By appearing humble, you gain her admiration. And by granting her the stage, you draw her closer. In doing so, you unlock her heart, not with grand gestures or empty flattery, but with the quiet confidence of a man who knows he doesn't need to compete for validation. Remember, the key to her heart isn't in shouting about your worth. It's in inspiring her to prove hers. As we reach the end of this journey, remember this. The key to unlocking a woman's heart isn't found in flashy gestures or rehearsed lines. It lies in your mindset and actions. By staying true to yourself, shifting the focus away from trying to impress, and allowing her to seek your admiration, you create a dynamic that's natural, genuine, and magnetic. From understanding how to balance validation, to cultivating curiosity, and gracefully managing internal pressure, every step brings you closer to fostering a connection built on authenticity and mutual respect. These aren't tricks. They're principles of confidence and character that make you stand out in a world of noise. If you found value in today's insights, let us know in the comments. What resonated with you most? And if you're ready for more, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with someone who could use a little wisdom today. Together, let's continue exploring the art of connection.